you ready? Valverde, puedes darle, ¿vale? Vamos.
Vale, gracias.
All right, welcome everybody. Good afternoon. We are delighted to have with us here José Toral as part of the Hispalit Architectural Lecture Series. José Toral is a renowned architect. He's professor in the Architectural School in Barcelona, co-founder along Marta Peris of the studio Peris and Toral Architectes in Barcelona. Through their work, they have shown a remarkable ability to combine innovation and sustainability in construction. Their practice focuses on new dwelling and housing types associated to new types of building in a context of climate and social housing emergency. Their work ranges from public buildings to social housing and mixed-use spaces. And they have been awarded multiple times, what has set them as leading figures in the architectural panorama nationally, but also in Spain, particularly regarding the topics of sustainability and social architecture. But before handing over to Mr. Toral, I must introduce Hispalit and Foro Ceramico, who are the organizers of this event. As many of you already know, Hispalit is the National Association of Ceramic Manufacturers in Spain. They play a vital role in promoting the use of ceramics between architects. Then, Foro Ceramico is an initiative by Hispalit to promote the use of ceramics to make sure that future generations of architects, like our students in Theo, and the new graduates, know about the technical possibilities, the performance, the creative and technical options to design with ceramics. And to do so, they organize every year 5 activities. The main one is the project competition, the one we have developed in our school in the 4th year, but it's organized locally by a school and also nationally for Spain in 2 phases. The second one is it's a prize for graduation projects, also to recognize projects which have used ceramics in an innovative way. The third one is this lessons learned by renowned architects like the one we have today. The fourth one is a series of technical talks where, say that on demand, they organize talks regarding trending topics on technology and innovation in architecture like BIM, passive house, biomaterials. And then the fifth activity is the factory visits to allow students to know firsthand the materials, the performance of the materials, and the possibilities they have with them by knowing the manufacturing process on site. So more in detail, I have to say, well, I'll explain to you that this year the overall topic for Spain was a canoeing club in Zaragoza. In our school, we have developed the nursery in Berlin in the 4th year. But still, our architects, our students, still have the opportunity to participate in this global Hispalit competition because the deadlines are in July and September, respectively, for architectural schools and master courses. Basically, Hispalit locally offers like two paths, one for schools which are integrated in the local competition system, another one more independent, and both paths lead to the national award. The inscription and enrollment is free on the website. This is a listing of all the architectural schools in Spain which have teamed up with Hispalit. I would say the majority of the architectural schools in Spain are participating in this project. Then the deadline for the local overall competition is 7th of July, as you can see on the screen. And these are the awards. The first one is the one that we will have very soon in our school, one economic prize and then two mentions. And the works are then published, which is another one of the rewards that students get. The national prize is much higher. Then there is a jury for local competitions, a jury with renowned architects for the national one. This is about the prize awarded to graduation projects in master course. The deadline for this one is the 12th of September. The award, 1,000 euros, plus all the publications and social media. The jury for the graduation project prize. Then I'm going to show you now a sample of the architectural studios which have participated in this lessons learned series, as the one we have today here with Jose. Normally recognized studios internationally and also nationally. The technical talks on innovative trending topics in architecture and technology, facades, roof construction, and then the factory visits. All right, then, as I said, this is the platforms that Hispalit used to promote the work by students are mainly three. These ones, the award event, a book, and then the publication physically and in the online media. And don't forget to fill a survey before you leave the room. I will leave the forms here. Before I sit, I'll leave the forms here so you can grab one and fill it. It's just a survey about the lecture, okay? Very important for Hispalit. And I think that's all on this part. I hand it over now to Jose Torra. We're looking forward to listen to his amazing work. And thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much for the presentation, Javier. And I will show you. I want to talk about mainly the frame where we have to work now, and because this is the frame that is affecting all our work, and then we will talk about some strategies that we do in the office in order to fit into that frame. So the important thing is more the frame and the strategies rather than the projects. Okay, so this is the frame. Nowadays everything has to be sustainable, but what does it mean to be sustainable? So things, in order to be something to be sustainable, has to be environmentally sustainable, economically sustainable, and socially sustainable. But it's not about being everything at the same time. So in some way, not all the environmental decisions that we can take into a project are viable in an economic point of view. Not all the economical decisions are equitable in a social point of view, and not all the social decisions are bearable in an environmental point of view. And only when all decisions are viable, equitable, and bearable, we are really talking about something really sustainable. So what we do in the office is that, so instead of aiming to these issues, no, instead of aiming directly to the environmental, aiming only to the social or only to the economic, we try to do strategies that are some way in between. No? So whenever we want to be environmental and social at the same time, we do this strategy of spacing. We create some intermediate spaces, with some thermodynamical behavior that helps, to have a reduction in the energy demand of the building, but at the same time, we place them in the circulation parts of the building, in the shaded parts of the housing, in order to have some social benefit. No? And whenever we want to be environmental and economic, the strategy we do is reducing, from the 3 R's, the first R is reduce. And that means that we have to be able to do the same with the least amount of material as necessary. So we reduce the amount of layer, we reduce the amount of materials. Remember this Norman Foster documentary talking about how much does your building weigh, no? That Mr. Fuller was asking him, no? Because the less something weighs, the less something contaminates. No? So in some way, we try in all of the sense to simplify all the solutions in order to reduce as maximum the solution. So, and by doing this, it's much more environmentally sustainable, but much more economic. And finally, whenever we want to be economic and social, the strategy we do is the idea of sharing. So every time we share, we are able to, we don't need to repeat the solution, so we only need to do it once, and everybody's able to take advantage. So in some way it's more economic, but at the same time, we give a social opportunity over there that helps the... So the issue here is that we will talk about our projects, but the main issues, the important thing I want you to understand are the strategies, not the project is only a way to understand the strategies. So we will begin with this project. All of the projects are social housings. They all go through competitions. And, we took the projects that we do in the office that we are doing with some kinds of bricks, okay? So this is a building we did in Ibiza. And we are, this is Ibiza, the downtown is over there in the left. But we're here in Playa de Embosa. It's a part where we have many hotels, of a big scale hotels, It's also very close to the airport. That means that the planes go very close to the hotels. It's very noisy, and that's why they have become some way of discotheques, Ushuaia, some of them very famous, because they make noise in order to compensate the noise of the airport, of the planes. And we are placed just behind there, and we're just in the middle of another kind of a small housing. No? So we wanted to do in some way be in the middle of the scale of using the scale of the singular homes, and at the same time to get the scale of the big scale buildings. And by doing this, and also facing all the dwellings that should face into south, and also taking advantage of facing to the embat, that is the wind that is coming from the sea to the inner land. And this is a diagram that we did in the competition, but we like to show this diagram because we don't see an object, we see a process. No, we understand the system, so we're talking about a system. We don't see the limits of the drawing because we are talking about a concept, not about an object. So we don't design an object, we design a concept that is related to this idea of the equal rooms. So in some way, we understand that in the 21st century, it is important that we don't have the hegemony of the living room anymore, because the television is not anymore the center of the house. Because relation with the media, it's more an individual relation with our devices, and privacy, it's more the relation with our device than our individual room. And that's why, in some way, we have decided that maybe a solution, it's like making bigger rooms and making buildings with equal rooms. So this is a 3x4 room. This is what model we're using. And what we see the strategy here is like we are, because of the regulation also, because we needed to have some step backs when we are going up for some very boring regulations. So we take these measurements, and what we do is that we are shaping the volume in order to generate more vertex. And every time you do a vertex, that generates a vortex and increases the movement of the air. And also you can see that we are covering the patios with some atriums, that we will have some environmental behavior. And this is the plan, that so we have 3 cores. Every core has a stair, then the lift, and then we have a room, that then the patio. So we repeat this 3 times. We're able to enter up to 4 dwellings per plan, not all of them with cross ventilation. Cross ventilation because they're facing to facades, or because they are having the cross ventilation through the patio. So we work with this idea of the equal rooms houses with no corridors. When we go closer, you can understand some ideas, some structural ideas, some bearing walls. Here we understand this relation of the stair, the lift, this room is the same that we see here. Then we have a lattice, a ceramic lattice that gives you some privacy, to the windows of the inner dwelling. So some way lattices, privacy is something that the movement of the air is something that is going to be very important in this project. And here you can understand also that the relation that we have to the exterior is through these intermediate spaces that are when they are facing south, they are closed with the glass curtains, and they are working as winter gardens. And the ones that we have in north, they are acting as a thermal buffer. So the relation of the interior to the exterior will be through intermediate spaces. So we can see here all this materiality and all this idea of the enfilades of rooms. And if we go closer to one of the units, we can see here this unit that we're talking about 6 modules, and 2 half modules that are the relation between the thermal buffer and the winter garden. The first one is the entry. The entry, it's the one with water. So we have the bathroom, we have the washing machine, and we understand it as furniture. So we understand all of this as a furniture inside a room. So that's why it's a lower level. Then it is important that the bedrooms, they have 2 doors in order to have a double circulation, so we can decide how to move through the house, and we can have some relation of the inner space from one to another. And also from the living room, we have all these diagonal the relations between the kitchen and the living room and the bedroom, and there's again a house with no corridor, that allows, so all the surface of the corridor is being put it into the bedrooms, so to make all spaces equal. And also this relation with the winter garden. Is the winter garden in the summer situation. But the real site plan will be this climatic car, So to understand it, this is like the mean temperatures in summer. In winter, it's 10 degrees, so that means that we go from 5 to 15, So then in summer, the mean is 25, so we go from 30 to 20, from 20 to 30, more or less. And another thing is the relative humidity. if you see here, the blue one is the one that says the regulation, but it's not proper. The one that we take from the airport or other databases are talking about a very high relative humidity. We should understand that relative humidity should be between 50 and 60%. No, so if we are around 80%, that means that it is too high, and bacteria get increased. And if it's under 30%, then all of the fans get very weak. So in order to face this climatic curve, we wanted to, one of the big deals that we had in this project was try, because it's also housing, and we were worried about the poverty of energy, people that cannot pay for the energy. So try to solve the building with no system. So we wanted to solve it without the needing of any active system. So what we do is try to understand what those comfort means, comfort is coming from. So everybody understands that maybe comfort has to do with temperature, but temperature is not the only parameter that we have. So we also have the relative humidity. We also have the movement of the air, the inertia, and the user, the behavior of the user, the activities they're doing, the clothing they're wearing, and all of these parameters are affecting the comfort. It's not only temperature. So in some way, and now we also like to make this drawing. This drawing, it's called the psychometric abacus. It's an invention of Carrier, but Carrier not only invented this, he also invented the air conditioning. He told us that every time we are outside the green area, we have to put on his machine. But that's what we don't want to do. And in some way, we are gonna try to translate all these comfort parameters into architectural elements. No? So if we want to translate temperature into an element, could be an atrium, could be a winter garden, anything that is able to capture the energy. If we want to talk about the movement of the air, we can talk about the solar chimneys, we can talk about the cross ventilation. If we want to talk about humidity, we can think about the hygroscopicity of the materials. So there are some materials that have the ability to regulate the moisture. And also, if we want to talk about the radiation, we can talk about inertia. No? The density and the conductivity of the materials can make the materials allowed to keep the energy for lasting for more time, and then finally always taking in account the user. No, this showing that the humidity, the ideal situation of humidity, and that's why one of the first decisions was making this comparison of what if we use concrete, what if we use brick, if we use timber, or we use earth. The best one in inertia, that is density and conductivity, would be concrete. Then we have, because we have this density of 2,300, then we have the earth and the bricks very similar. One is 2,000 of density, the other one is 1,200. No, and then timber is not that good with inertia. Then, but if we look for the capacity of moisture regulation, the hygroscopicity, it's working the other way around. The worst one is the concrete, then we have the brick. The timber is working very well, but the issue is that earth is able to work 2.5 times better than the timber that it was already working very well. That's why we decided to use these bricks made of earth. So there's no coction here, okay, because we want this regulation, no? And the manufacturer, they used to do it at very big pieces. They are very beautiful, but they're very difficult to put on site. So we need auxiliary elements, but we wanted to do 43 units, so it was too many of them. So we didn't have the opportunity to put all this auxiliary machinery that was necessary to build it like this. So we asked them to go to a more smaller piece that you can handle with one hand. No, so in some way we're looking, you know, to have this relation between the user, the construction, and the aesthetics. No, in some way we put many people raising all these labyrinths of walls, no, made of earth that we can see here. So in some moment it looks like in a cave, no, and there's some issue that normally here in Spain we're not very well when we do the constructions. We have some issues, and normally when you do some walls, we normally would plaster them in order to assure that we don't have acoustic breach, because the joints, no, they're not perfectly built. So when we plaster, we cover all the joints. But here we wanted to take advantage of having the material. So if we plaster it, we are losing that. So instead of doing this, what we did, okay, we made a very fine plaster that we polish it in order to make sure that all the plaster was closing perfectly all the joints. So in some way, this idea of reduction, that we are taking out some material to do a finish. No, it's not always think of putting more material. Sometimes has to do so taking out some of the material. And that's why when you see all the walls are very shiny, but it's the same what we did in the pavement. No, the pavement, instead of adding a finish, we just polish all the layer of the floating layer. And this is like all the work that we did. You know, every time we cut a piece, we mark it in a red color. No, so we have different sizes of cuts. That's all to make sure that all the walls are built the way they should. And all these kinds of very boring plans. The one issue here, no, is that every time that we do a building with bearing walls, we try to solve acoustics with the law of mass. That means that the acoustic between neighbors, we can do it with a mass spring solution. That's what very light systems constructions are working as. But the other way is making a very heavy solution that we can solve it only with one layer. So you can solve it with many layers, but then you need to put some isolation, some layer isolation, or you put only one layer with a lot of mass. So in order to make it work, you need at least 300 kilos per square meter. So we have this 2,000 kilos by cubic meter piece of earth. By 20 centimeters, we have 400. So we are able to solve only with one sheet. So we don't need to repeat the structural layer in order to solve all the acoustics. But then all the rest of the walls are only 10 centimeters. So trying just to adjust the dimensions to the minimum as necessary. And then one of the big issues here was the slab. We did the competition with timber slabs, but through all the simulations that we did with our consultants, they told us we need to increase inertia. So as we were talking before, concrete was the best material for inertia, but we did say, okay, so now we have to go to concrete. But we were worried about the emissions, no? So in some way, we thought, okay, let's try to think of how should be a slab of concrete to reduce the amount of concrete we are using. So in some way, it's something that has happened, no? That through the years, no, every time we have been losing geometry into architecture because geometry was meaning we needed to put more hand labor. So every moment, so all the 20th century is like a transformation of the constructive solutions to a more simplified solutions with no geometry, and on the slabs they begin with very geometrical ones into all these as losas, the slabs, no, that are totally horizontal. But they use more quantity of concrete. In this case, we put a prefabricated beam of 10 by 20 centimeters every 80 centimeters. And everything is joined together to compensate moments to make it only one layer with 5 centimeters compression layer. That means that we have 20 plus 5 25 centimeters of a structural section, but the equivalent concrete of a slab of 10 centimeters. That's a reduction of a 66% in the amount of concrete. So in some way, sometimes we think that are the materials the ones that are sustainable or not, but the reality is that is the way we use the materials, the one that makes them sustainable or not. So in some way, but now we don't have, our slab is very light. We cannot use the law of mass in order to solve the acoustics. So we have to go to a spring mass situation. So that's why we put 30 millimeters of rock wool in top, that's the spring. So we have the first 5 centimeters compression layer is the first mass. Then we have the rock wool, and then we add 6 centimeters of this floating concrete layer that instead of adding a pavement, we decided to polish in order to take advantage of all the inertia that we are putting there. This is how we built it, no? How the prefabrication is a way to put back geometry into architecture. And then it is nice to see that what we wanted was inertia. So this has to do with the surface of interchange. So by doing this geometrical slab, we are able to increase the surface of interchange by 1.5. So we have more surface to dissipate the energy. So it's working like a radiator the other way around. And for doing all the insulations, all the coverings, we decided to use Posidonia. Posidonia is a sea plant that we have in the islands, no? And so we dry it, and we are using it to do the coverings. Instead of putting concrete or the slope layer, we do the slopes with the timber. So that means that we have more insulations where we have higher slopes. And then we cover it with an OSB. We do the impermeabilization with an EPDM, and then we do some green roof solutions or some others with some recycled concrete section. Then we isolated everything with cork, 10 centimeters of cork, going in front of, so it's an ethics, no, an external insulation solution, no. So in some moment the building was totally brown. Then we plastered it with lime, no. So the lime has the capacity that by being back to the stone, no, to absorb the CO2 of the manufacturing. Then in some of the inner isolations, instead of using plaster boards, we are using clay boards, no? So, and we plastered them with some plaster of clay with some straw, no? So that's why we see this like some Haiti straw that gives the unity to this space. So, and the external spaces, no? Instead of using concrete, we're using gravels, and instead of joining them together with mortar, no? That again, everything, you should understand that everything that joins material is everything that has a very elevated emissions, no? So try to solve the joining of materials with gabions, no? With putting the gravel directly into the floor. That makes a very sustainable solution. So we're not using anything that is gluing material. So that's how we were able to, even using concrete, having a reduction of a 60% in the quantity of emissions of the building. And here we can talk about these thermodynamical elements, the winter garden and the atrium. This atrium that is not only covering the patio, it's bigger in order to become, so in some way to increase the surface of captured energy, but mainly to generate this social space, not to make, so at the end of the social plan, we have this room that is for the community to become this thermodynamical and social strategy. So this is working as a capturing energy in the winter. So we capture energy with the atrium, we capture energy with the winter gardens. And then as we have a lot of inertia, now all these like 5 or 6 hours that we can capture energy in winter, we can keep this energy for the rest of the day, because of the inertia. And because of we have a lot of insulation, this cork insulation with no thermal breaches, we can keep this energy and we are not going to lose it, And then, this is how it's working, the atrium. So we have a 15 degrees temperature outside, and we can rise like 7 degrees up to 23, degrees. Here is the first simulation. So we were worried about this stratification of the temperature. That's why we put a fan in the atrium in order to make sure all the temperature. So this idea of this convection, it's the relation of the energy, and that's what's happening in a house, So the blue line is the out temperature. So during the night we go down to 9, during the day up to 15 degrees. So we're going up and down, and the red line is the inner temperature in the house. It's a horizontal line in 21 degrees, and it is horizontal because we have a lot of inertia. That's what makes the line totally horizontal. But if we only had inertia, it would have been horizontal in the mean line. So it should have been around this 10, 12 degrees. It should be the mean line between day and night. But as we have this ability to increase temperature through the atrium, through the winter garden, we can rise up this temperature into a situation of comfort without needing an active system, without needing the use of energy. And for solving the summer situation, we transform the atrium into a solar chimney. That means that we put a solar protection in the inner part. We make openings in the atrium, in the two sides of the atrium, also in the ground floor. And then, the solar protection makes a camera that increases the temperature, and hot air goes up, and that generates a movement of the air. So that's what's happening. We are generating some movement of the air because of this solar chimney. And also, as we open all the building, all the shape of the building is changing. We can dissipate more energy through all the building. And also because we have the earth, we can make this moisture regulation, the hygroscopicity, and also the inertia, and we can cool at night the building. So that's why when you see some images, it's full of lattices, because it is very important, this movement of the earth of this solar chimney. So this is the same graphic as before, and now we don't have a system to cool air, so we can only, the only goal is to get the mean line, So instead of facing this 30 degrees, 31 degrees, we have between 26 and 27 degrees in the inner. But as we were talking at the beginning, temperature is not the only comfort parameter. So let's understand how can we get comfort with these temperatures that are a bit high, these 26, 27. So movement of the air will be one of the big issues here. So that's why we're doing this with this solar chimney. We are working with these solar protections that allow this cross ventilation in all the units. So this is the solar chimney. You see the solar protection. We are also using the fan in the other way around to move more the air. And that's what's happening. So we are able to generate a 2.1 meters per second movement of the air, even though outside there is no movement of the air. So that means that every half meter per second, we have 1 degree of thermal feeling less. So that means that with 2 meters per second, we feel 4 degrees less. The temperature of the thermometer stays the same, but your feeling is 4 degrees less. That's the final situation. This is like how to validate our system. That's the same way they use for mechanic systems. So it's a validation of the percentage of people in discomfort. In this case, it's 6%. So that means that we have a 94% of people that are happy with the situation, and this is the worst day of the year, no? The worst hour. That means that with a temperature of 29, remember that the inner temperature should have been between 26 and 27. A movement of the air 1.5, the atrium was able to do, the solar chimney to do 2.1 meters per second with an humidity of a 56% because of we are using the air. And the proper clothing level of the user, we are able to move this green area of carrier into a situation of comfort even with high temperatures. Then we like to go back to the building once it's totally inhabited, and we like to understand how people are taking advantage of this relation of the house with the atrium, opening their windows, this how they appropriate the space, all this relation with the earth, their furniture with earth walls and these terraces, on these outer terraces, the winter gardens, how they inhabited all these spaces, and going back to this idea of the comfort, that the dog is able to understand, to find a place. So going back to Barcelona, this is another project we did in Barcelona, and this project, it is very important. It is this block here, what we see here, but the important thing is the relation of the block with the river. Now, this is the Besòs River. So Barcelona is between two rivers, Llobregat and Besòs. So we are very close to this river, And the first thing is understanding what's the territorial importance of this river for the housing. So, and it is a canal of wind that goes from the sea to the mountain. So every day, during the day, the wind is going through the river up to the mountain, and during the night, it's going from the mountain to the river, to the sea. So it is this canalization of air that generates this Venturi effect that we wanted to take advantage with our design. So that's why we decided to do all the facade with lattice. In order, we are facing to this wind channel, so we wanted to be absorbed from the wind of this canal. And this is something that we were not the first one who realized that was happening over there. This is a building of Boigas, pretty close to our building. He also decided to have all the facade. In his case, it's a facade of the entries. In our case, it's a facade of the terraces. But both buildings, we have the same relation to the river with this idea of the lattice. So this is how he's entering. And this is we are in a situation that our building is to replace this housing, so people who used to live here go to the new houses. We were not very happy with that because we thought that they should have maintained these kinds of houses, but at the end, they only keep two of them as a museum, and the rest they put them. We were very interested of this idea of people living outside their homes, and standing. So in some way, even though it was a competition that everything was totally decided that we have to do 2 dwellings per plan, so we couldn't do a corridor, or these kinds of things that Boigas was doing, But, well, we thought that maybe we can understand or try to increase the amount of intermediate spaces, And this is our building in relation to the building of Boigas. And this is our facade. And one of the issues that we were worried about was this facade, 80 meters facade with all the rooms. That means that in a normal situation, we would have had 150 windows in a facade. So we thought, okay, this will look like more like a panel of beams. So we were very worried. So instead of making one window for every room, we decided to make the windows through intermediate spaces. So every 3 bedrooms, we do a terrace, and we're changing the scale of the terraces in order that now we only have a facade with 50 openings, And also it's more related with the scale of the business. We're always worried about this relation of scale. Now, how built it. No? Here we understand. So we have some movement and then some individuals openings appears that we are really happy because we think also for climatic relation that we have in our climate with exterior, it's always better to look to the exterior through some intermediate space. Also, we can understand the ground floor. We have some lattice because we are also thinking of this movement of the air, taking advantage for the basement, for the parking areas. This is one of these spaces from the inside, no? It helps us to have this relation between the rooms, bedrooms, and all this renaturalization, no? Is the entry, no? Try to generate this intermediate space. In this case, we designed one brick that was narrower in order that you cannot put the feet inside and you cannot climb. So it is a special design that we did for this project. And then understanding that with this intermediate space, we can raise up 60 centimeters the ground floor in order to give some privacy to the houses in the ground floor. So this is the entry, and this is the houses in the ground floor. They also have a relation with the patio that is behind this ventilation that we have of the and also these openings. No, all the windows they enter into the wall, and we have this in and outside relation. And the stair also understanding this dynamical behavior of having the lattice and the movement of the air over here. No, so it's all about this movement of the air that we were talking about. So in some way, one of the not very evident decisions is the stair. Normally, you try not to use too much facade when you put on a stair, but in this case, we put it in the way that it's using the more amount of facade. We did that because then we can put down the lift and make the second bathroom put behind the lift in order to liberate this space and have this diagonal relation and have more deepness and allow the air to go better from one side. So now we have this from the living room to the living room, having all this relation. And one thing that we are very surprised, this is again the building of Boigas. It's a complex, and we were totally fascinated of how they, in that moment, the bearing wall building, they understood the aesthetics of construction. So understanding and how beautiful is this aesthetic of construction. So as they are doing bearing walls, they needed to take out some of to understand, to put the slab. Now the easy way to do a bearing wall with the slabs is showing the slab. No, it's a more cheaper way. Now we cannot do it because then we have some thermal bridges, no? But and how they can give rigidity to the facade by entering some of the bricks in the outside, and how everything is going from floor to ceiling, and they're very simple construction. We're totally fascinated by that, and we thought, okay, maybe the neighborhood is changing. This is the only relation we have. Let's try to do the same Boigas did at his moment nowadays. So in some way, we wanted, okay, the cheaper way to solve is showing the slabs, but now we have to solve this acoustic bridge, no? So we did, instead of, what we did is to put a precast element with the insulation in the moment we were doing the slab. So we don't have some screws, so we just put the prefabricated piece that is connected with the inside concrete. Okay, and then so now we have this isolation, and then we are using the brick. Not normally you put the horizontal brick, but we wanted to have the lattice, so we put it. It's a piece of 25 centimeters that is generating this. Every layer has 25. We have this more for this metal element, and then we are holding all the facade with a metal element. No, it's the window that is holding the facade. No, it's not the facade that is holding the window. And also this corner, no, understanding that, okay, the corner, we have to show the construction of the corner. So in order, we do like this idea, no? So this is, and again, a very special brick that it's double. So it's thicker than standard, and so in order to show how on all the holes of the construction, no. So we're using these three kinds of bricks, the two walls of the lattices, and this brick that it's a bit wider, but it's only that we manufacture it, we don't cut all. Well, this is all this solution, no, with no thermal breaches. This is how we build it. And that's, so we put this precast element with isolation, and then we put the concrete, and everything's joined together. So we don't need a very expensive stainless steel element. So because everything is protected with the concrete, the cheap solution. And then this is what I was saying. So we put first the windows and then the facade. Normally in a standard situation, is the facade the one that is holding the windows? In this case, the windows are the ones that are holding the facade. And because we were worried about this situation of, normally when you do a lattice, you need to put some structural elements in one of the sides. No, or outside or inside, no? But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to be totally ceramic from both sides. So these are the structural elements, the ones that are doing the windows. And by the horizontal one in every layer, we're able to hold all the facade. So we see here, these are the elements that are holding the facade with these armors in every layer. And in the facade of the river, no, it's this balcony that it's one element itself. It's totally structural, So it's not the slab that is going out. It's this element. All its elements is structural. That in some way we needed to put this V tensor because this point was going a bit lower. So when we do the structural simulations. So, and following, for us, it is important to follow. It's not an aesthetic decision for us, but every time I see this element, I like it more because it has to do with the logics of the strength that it's working on. And so, in some way, it's a piece that we designed it very well, totally designed it in order to make the rest of the construction just to be the standard system. So this element has the joints for every layer of the brick, also brings the handrail, also the supports of the slatter. So everything, it's a piece that we designed it to make the rest very standard. That's how it's finished for protection, and that's what I was looking for. Not having, when you see the lattice, you don't see in each one of the sides, you don't understand where is the structural. And also in the last upper floor, so you see that it's perfect in both. And, in order to give more transparency, we understood that maybe we need to put some light behind the lattice. So that's why in the upper floor, we put this precast element that allows light to enter in order to generate more light feeling, that the lattice will become more transparent. That's the element that we have up here, also with some protection that the wind, the rain is not entering. And here we see the section, what's happening in the basement, this basement that we will have some a parking lot, and we'll try to solve it with natural systems, so with a natural ventilation. So even though it's totally underground, has this capacity to take the air. So this is the entrance of the parking, and it is interesting to see all this light. It's not only air that is entering; it's also light what is entering to here. And here we have a very important reflection, because we do parkings because of the regulation. Regulation is asking us to do a parking, one park for every one of the units. So we have 54. But we don't believe, we as an office, we don't believe does make sense because the way of mobility is totally changing. New generations are not using that many cars as they were as other generations. We can move through the city in other ways, but mainly because in a few years the automatic car will come into our life, and I can be totally sure that an automatic car will never park under our homes. We'll be going around through the city. We will call it with an app, and we will pick us up. So we are building a space that will last more than 100 years, and maybe the use is not going to be there for more than 10 years. So by putting in some way light and air into these spaces, we can give some resilience to these spaces. So this is the plan that the client thought we were doing, but this is the plan that we actually were doing. We thought that in the future you can go through the ramp with your bike, you can park your bike, and then you can have some studios, some storage spaces. So one of these spaces you can end up with a patio with some plans and give some resiliences and rethinking how in the future could we rethink these spaces. And this is another project also in Barcelona next to La Mina. We were always not really sure if we are talking about a tower that becomes a block or a block that becomes a tower. Well, the regulations that we have to deal are very bad. So we need to, but in some way we thought, again, let's see, the south is this side. So let's understand it as a tower that we can take more advantage of the south of orientation. So we begin with this plan of the tower, all equal rooms, all equal dwellings, 10 by 6, no? And putting in this spastica situation, all of them with natural ventilation because of the corner situation through the day zone, no? With the 2 stairs that we need when we do a tower. Then when we go to the block, these 3 are the same of the tower. So we copy these 3 in this corner. We only needed to change this typology in the middle in order to generate an empty space in the center. Even though this is only 17 meters, we managed to generate some empty space in the center that can become this atrium, this thermodynamical space, this social space that we were talking about, and it has the ability of changing the shape factor during the winter, during the summer, no? All the simulations that we've already seen, no? Then we will have all kinds of social places, no? The parking, the facilities in the ground floor, from the atrium, the 5th floor. When we change from the tower to the block, we have this opportunity of this big terrace, also the rooftop patio. So this is the entrance. We try to take advantage of all the possibilities of the concrete, of the lattices that we can do with the. This is something that Moraga had done in Barcelona in many of the buildings that he did in the 60s. Also something that for us was very interesting, all the potential of these aesthetics of the brick. Then the atrium, the brick, because of the inertia they have, can give us Vale.
Es que se me ha caído esto. No pasa nada, no pasa nada. O sea, qué susto, estaba ahí fuera. Digo, parece un buque de guerra.
Vamos, no, pues,
¿Por fuera mejor?
ya que estamos. Hola. Ana, lo has quitado, ¿no?
Eso.
Okay, sorry. Everything's working. Well, using the brick, no, the massive of the brick can give us this inertia that can help us to make this space thermodynamical, bioclimatic, no, and then we put strategically when we find an opportunity to put some benches, spaces for the relation of the people, so understanding this as a social place at the same time, no. And also all the material, the rest of materials also, they are looking for having lots of inertia. Here, the solar protection, it's a very, very cheap way that we put the solar protection in the outer part, because here we didn't have this maintenance that we had in the previous project, but we can, and so that it's calculated in order that in winter, it enters the light, and in summer, it totally protects. We don't need to make any movement in order to have this solar protection. And here we have this social scale, no? That for us it is very important, this monumentality of a scale that for us it's very important, and the opportunity of the 5th floor, now that we also see it from the outside with this changing of the structure, using the lattices to give some intimicity to the terraces, to the laundry, and also the solar protections that allow the air to go through, you know. This is all the detail now of how we do all the lattice here. We take advantage of the same system that we did in the previous project, no? But in this case, all with these massive bricks. Also, we have this opportunity of the rooftop that we can also see it from the facade by this empty space. And this typology that it is important for us, no? That the bathroom is always in the same place. The kitchens are in the parley wall, and it can change sometimes, and the rooms are the ones that are able to change in order to not have a totally 10 stories repetition facade. So we are able to have this composition of the facade in order to change the scale of the building. So again, here in the ground floor, in the basement, we have this idea of the cross ventilation. This is the facility in the ground floor, and all the ground floor with a lattice, with this, that allow us to do a very similar system as the one we did in the previous project for the parking. This is one of the very old project that we finished in 10 years ago. It is in Melilla, so it's the first building we did with brick. Sorry. Well, this is the situation, the city of Melilla. And so we did this idea of the swastika. We're very worried about the movement of the air through here. So that's why all these gaps are entering. So we're talking with a patio that has gaps in every swastika system that allows the air to enter through it. And this is the entrance. So all the decisions are very, very volumetrical. So it's a volume, the one that is shaping the entrances. So we enter through here. Now this is the entry of the parking in the other side. Also a parking with natural ventilation with these lattices, and using all the solar protection that it's everything thought of through this idea of the movement of the air. This typology that we are changing from 2 rooms to 1 room. So it's always the same system of equal rooms. This is the first project where we tried this idea of making equal spaces. No? This is what we're doing. In one story, in one floor, we have 2 bedrooms. Here we have 3 units of 1 bedroom. No, so, and this is what happened in the facade that allow us also to change the scale into the facade. No, this is a facade that, you know, in this moment we never use very small pieces in front of the slabs. In this case, we raise up with metal elements that were the one that we're holding all the facade. This is the last project we had built. This is in Masnou. It's in Maresme. It's very in relation to the sea and relation to the mountain. So we have these dry rivers. And the first decision, we won the competition because we had this L shape. But instead of doing that, we divided into 2 buildings, and we allow a street to go through the building. So this Carrer Ciutat Real was not there. We give this continuity to this, no? So this is something that made us win the competition. And then this rooftop that we have a facility in the ground floor has become a plaza, public plaza, again, some public space that where we're gonna have all the entries. And also we had the opportunity to do all the environmental, all the urbanización, the ground floor, the outer spaces. No? So we use the green spaces to give some privacy to the ground floor. So this is the continuity of the street, no? Yeah, external works of landscaping. Well, this is this entrance, no? Again, this massive brick we are using, and how you enter. You have the entrances, and also on the other side you have the stairs. And we can give continuity to some parts of the city. So for us, it is always important that the project can also help to the city, no? And this is this plaza, no, that has become space for entering, and this is from the city, no. But when we have these stairs that are also social place for the community, no. And one of the things here was the parking. No, we wanted to do the same. We have 40 units, but that means we needed to do a natural ventilation in 2 basement stories. So in order to convince the authorities that we can do that, we make some simulation of this movement of the air, and how strategically we have to put some openings that allow, to make this work. So it is nice that we have this big opening that we can even put trees in the parking, no? And this is the second basement, no? And it is nice to understand, to see the amount of light that we can also have in this, and how the resilience that we were talking before, how in the future we could rethink how to use these spaces. Well, this is the entrance, the ground floor with the entrances. So we have 4 units in the first, so 4 units per plan, and 3 and 3, 6 in this block. So we have 3 cores, 1 of 4 and 2 of 3. This is this entrance space, no? With these wooden boxes that also it is acoustic, the ceiling, to give more comfort. No, trying to make all of them with good solar orientation, all of them with this natural ventilation, cross ventilation. No? This is the typical floor plan with this room where we enter. No? And this is the unit, no, that is very similar to the one of the block and tower, no, that we are using this situation of the day zone with cross ventilation. And we were analyzing how the wind is able to move from one to another, no? And also giving inertia, no? We leave exposed the slab. We put some inner walls made of brick, no? And also some openings. So this is the bathroom, and we make this window to enter natural light to the bathroom. This is a second typology, and the kitchen over here, and this idea of the brick and the inertia. So with the heating, we put it where we have the inertia. So part of this heating we can last it more during the rest of the day. And this idea of this window of the bathroom. This external solar. We have this winter garden. No, that this is how it works in winter, how it's working in summer. No. Sorry, this is winter day and night, and summer day and night. No? And this is these spaces, no, that sometimes it works like external rooms. Well, and just to finish, we always like to finish with this sentence that always never different, but never always the same, that the Dorothee that was saying about his culture. And for us, it is something that we try to do this in our project. Thank you very much. So, if you have any questions, be pleased to answer. Any questions around? Absolutely.
Well, I have something to say, but I impressed by the lecture. It's been a great lecture. But I prefer that if some student that they start.
My question was, you talked about how the parkings, you see it as something that will evolve in the space. We're thinking about it also in the sense of timing for architecture. But you also try to solve things for environmental reasons and not just facilities. So my question is, your walls are bricks. That would be harder to evolve or change in the future. So how do you balance between playing with time, but at the same time trying to be sustainable?
Okay. Well, the projects I showed today are all made with bricks. Not all the projects we do in the office are made with bricks. But the most important to be sustainable is that things last. If things are able to last, they will be more sustainable, even though the emissions could be very high. So bricks is a very good solution for that. The facades that you made with bricks, when you go there 20 years after and they look like exactly like the first day. You don't need to repose them. So we are not against putting heavy solutions if they are going to last. So things should. But you cannot do brick for something that is not going to last. No, this is the point. No, so some way we understand that maybe the standard for a building when I begin to work, it was understanding that a building will last 100 years. Maybe now one solution is to understand that a building should last 200 years. So, and we totally agree with this sentence of Lacaton Basal of never demolish. So we don't think that in the future our buildings will be demolished. So we think it is more sustainable not to demolish. So we need to go to build one thing into another. No, like if you go to Split, the palace of the Diocletian, every layer of everyone has gone in top of another. So this idea of understanding sustainability, of thinking how things should be dismantled, it is no. I don't think this should be what will work in the future.
Small. Why didn't you talk about the 85 social?
Sorry?
85 social dwellings.
Yeah, because they are not made of brick.
Yeah, I was waiting for that one. I references that theorem.
No, but I think they are good examples. So don't worry.
As I was saying, I'm really impressed because I have enjoyed a lot.
Thank you.
You have been talking as a real architect, as you are, because you have been combining everything. We need to understand that the architect, in his mind, needs to consider all the, not only the technical parts, no, but everything together. So that now you are thinking in technical, now you are thinking as an urban planner, now you are thinking, no, you are, so it's something that the maturity will bring to you, but you need to have this balance of everything at the same time. And I think that your lecture really gives us this feeling. And I'm very satisfied because I really like that students see this approach, which is what they need to learn and what they need to master. So for that, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, it is that I believe that the architect has to have this holistic approach to the things. It is the big difference between an architect and an engineer. The engineer isolate the question. They are analyzing a question, so they isolate the rest of the parameters. So they only have one solution on this specific question. So they look for the best for that, but not for a holistic best. And architects, we put many parameters in the question, in the equation, and then every architect puts a bit more intensity in one or other parameter. So every architect is able to do different solutions because we have many questions at the same time. But it is for us that for me, it is the clue of being an architect. Architects, we solve many things with one solution. So it's not the best solution. There is this sentence that I can try to do it in English, but in Spanish is lo mejor es enemigo de lo bueno. That it's like the best is against the better, no? So it's not so. The engineers, they try to get the best, but they don't get the better, and the architects try to do the better.
And then I have a very, I would say, silly question, but I don't think it's a silly question. It's a simple question. Is when you were showing this solution for the slabs in which you reflect the front of the slab in order to keep the same language of the building. I understand that you have the bearing walls or the structure in perpendicular orientation to the facade.
Yeah.
Then, in the other facades that we are not seeing, are you able to also show the front of the slab?
Yeah.
Rotate the,
No, it goes totally wrong.
So,
No, it is that we have the slab,
yeah.
and then we have the isolation, and then we have the precast element, and they are totally connected. But so the pillars are in the limit of the slab. So we can always pass the isolation perfectly through everything. So we never touch the precast element never touches the pillar. It always has isolation in the middle.
Okay. That was it.
It's okay.
Thank you very much for today and to this so impressive lecture we have done. Because even for me that I know the work you do in your practice is today you also have explained the things that we are not usually see as some points of the construction or that real things that worry you, that is starting point. But I will take advantage that you are here on this great opportunity here and a priceless opportunity. For asking not about your work, because your work is very diverse. You invite all the students to make a much more research about all the interesting things you are doing nowadays. But something that always surprised me, I'm not sure why mainly in the Catalonia region and the Highlands are these use of that that reform or review of the traditional construction. I don't know if it's something because related to the tradition, related to the weather conditions as the inertia, because it's properly than other kind of uses, and confronting to some prefabricated or more industrial kinds of construction, for example, as here in this area, I'm not so which one. More or less, what do you think?
It's not a very easy question to answer, but I can.
It's not easy.
No, I can try to explain some of the situations. I can explain. I will explain why in our office we do it. I'm not really sure that everything that is happening in the Balearic Islands or in Catalonia it's in the same way. Okay, maybe it's not, but for us, we share. I was saying this when I was playing the slab of Ibiza. No, we in the vernacular architecture, there was a very the cost of the hand labor was very low, and the cost of the materials was very high. So the solution was okay. Let's give geometry through hand labor in order to need less amount of material. No, so that's why in some way there are very big, very well elaborated solutions that they need lots of hours of hand labor, but they are using as minimum material as possible. And then the 20th century, we had this globalization, and what happened is that the materials raised totally down the cost, and the hand labor raised totally up the cost. So then we had this evolution that was from every day, every new invention was able to simplify, reduce the amount of hand labor and increase the amount of material. And that's the evolution of slabs, of concrete slab, from the unidirectional to the bidirectional, ending with the slabs totally. So every time we're using more material, and we are simplifying the hand labor. But then we have the 21st century where we realize that if we understand that the cost of the material is not only the economic, we take in consideration the environmental cost of the materials, then we are in a new situation where we have a very expensive hand labor and a very expensive material. So we look at the vernacular architecture because we are sharing many of the problematics. So it's totally the inspiration that we have in the vernacular has to do because they had solved this issue of having expensive materials. So they know how to give geometry. But the problem is that we cannot do it exactly the way they do it because they needed a lot of hand labor. So in some way, we work with the industry and we try to do more industrialization projects. So we do precast, we try to. So we're not exactly in the vernacular. But I say that because some of the architecture that has been done in the Balearic Islands, they only look for the vernacular. So and then they are not, but they try to do things that maybe they are not nonsense in our situation. So I don't totally agree with everything that has been done. Under our point of view, it has to do with that. So we have a very good inspiration when we look at the vernacular because we share part of the problem, no? So it is totally. So every time I visit, I understand when I see an arch, it is, we need much less. I don't really say much less. When we follow, we feel that we have to go back to give geometry to architecture. So that's why we follow a lot the vernacular architecture. But we understand that we have to do it in a more industrial way. That answering that, the projects that we normally do in Barcelona or in Catalonia, they are much more industrialized than the ones that we do in the islands. But that has a lot to do with the industry that we have in the island and the industry that we have here. In the island, we don't have very big industry to do precast, and everything has to come with a boat. And it's easier if you promote the local. So it's different. I don't know if this answers anything.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Right, thank you very much, Jose, for this impressive talk. As Cesar was saying, it's that combination of all the qualities that a real architect has. It's been impressive today. Technical, material, social, environmental, your studies, even the drawings. I've been impressed by the drawings. I don't know. I'd like you to ask you for the software that you use, but anyway, drawing nowadays is easier than it was in the past. Thank you very much, and
Welcome.
well, hope to looking forward to working with you soon in other things. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Please leave the surveys over there on the counter.